artists. This is Catherine Ziegler, and welcome to the Acting for Your Life podcast. This is Wise Words Wednesdays. Thanks so much for tuning in. The podcast has been around for about 4 years, but Acting for Your Life as a program celebrates 10 years this year. We started back in 2005 in New York City with just some basic acting classes and started to branch out and actually offer some life and career advice during those classes, and that became Acting for Your Life, where we focus on life and career balance. Today we have a very special guest with us. She has a varied career and she's in a fun new stage in her life, and we want to welcome her. Today we are talking to Delilah Smyth. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm going to start with you where I start with everybody else. Why don't you tell our listeners how you found the world of arts and entertainment?
Well, I was born in Woodford County, Kentucky, and raised mainly in Lexington. My family moved there when I was about 4. And about 7 or 8, I was a little bit obsessed with food. I asked for a turkey for Christmas one year, and a few other things that led my mother to be a little bit concerned. So she started looking for ways to get me physically active. And I was going to an elementary school, Briar Hill Elementary, which has since closed. And my principal loved dance. So he started an after-school program, which I then attended, and discovered that I had a little bit of talent towards dance. So my mother enrolled me at Lexington Ballet School. And from there, it just took off. And around 15 or 16, it became clear that this is a possible career choice for me. And I think even with saying that, there's a knowledge that it's half luck out there. It is such a competitive career choice. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of little girls who want to do it and work hard and are talented. And, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time with a director who thought a 5'9" gangly girl was something good for their company. So, I had a wonderful career as a professional dancer with Lexington Ballet and Louisville Ballet Company. Got to do a little bit of guesting here and there, got to do a little bit of traveling, got to do a number of just great character roles, just amazing stuff. And from there, I started choreographing a little bit on dancers, eventually made my way to choreographing on acting companies, and my first show was Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Yay.
Which was fantastic and so fun. And, I had been a fan growing up in the, hitting my stride in the 80s, my teenage years, and going to the midnight shows of Rocky Horror and throwing my post and all of it. So I was so excited to do the show and be a part of it. And from there, Gil Reyes, who was the director of that production and hired me in to do that choreography, cast me in Valparaiso as an actress. And that was just an incredible stroke of luck. So it's just kind of been tumbling down this hill of opportunities and trying to take the right ones and trying to be prepared for any that may come. So got to do some great acting, got to choreograph still on dancers and on actors, just this great career. Retired from performing on stage in 2007 at the ripe old age of 37, which is a pretty long career as a professional dancer. Kind of stumbled trying to figure out what I wanted to do next, and eventually ended up as the director of education for the Louisville Ballet, still getting to choreograph and everything else. Then, as you and I discussed earlier, met my husband, who quickly moved to Canada where he was from, and so did long distance for a while, then found myself in my early 40s, pregnant, long distance, decided to get married, move to Canada, and have a baby.
Well, you've had a very full life so far, and especially with a kiddo, you're there on that cusp of that new part of your life, and being a mom and being an artist at the same time. The theme that I'm hearing through your life, though, and this is so important for all artists, I think, to remember, is flexibility, because you never know what life is going to throw at you. Am I right?
Oh, totally. And not just being prepared for it, but being excited by it, I think was something that was kind of surprising for me. Like somebody going, "Hey, would you want to act?" And being like, "Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, I would." That sounds fantastic. Ballet is And I'm especially now being so removed from something that's been such a huge part of my life, I miss the physicality. So, occasionally I just got to go to Zumba, or I dance in my living room with my kid, whatever.
Sure.
But being ready to take, totally, kind of obscure directions has been what has allowed me to stay in the arts and find some way of being fulfilled there.
It's very interesting. I've always been entranced by dance, and I'm a fair mover. I'm not a dancer. I'm a fair mover, though. I've done my share of musicals, and I didn't really see the correlation of acting and dance until I saw Contact when it was on Broadway, and just the idea of the acting that really does go into dance and portraying a character and taking on the story. It's such a beautiful way to express oneself. What kind of training did you do to actually develop character? Was it like an acting based training?
Well, I'm sure there is a lot of training available out there. I was mainly trained as a classical ballet dancer. Of course, I had some modern and some contemporary and some jazz and all of that stuff thrown in there, as well as character dancing and things of that nature. But when you go to the classics, when you're brought up learning things like, Giselle and Sleeping Beauty and Nutcracker, for heaven's sake, they all are just chock full of these great character roles. Capellia with Dr. Capelius, and there used to be, in the larger companies, in the European companies, there are positions for character dancers, people who are there to really take on those roles and to become these characters. So acting is instrumental in dance, and not just. I don't want to make it sound like it's just in classical dance.
Sure.
Of course not. And in all forms. That just happened to be what I was trained in, and so that's kind of where it came from. And then I have a very colorful family.
Don't we all?
I think that seriously, I think that also kind of lends itself to, even my kid, bless her heart, is being raised by me. So one of the things that we started doing when she was like 1 year old, we would sit at the dinner table and go, "Show me angry," just like playing. And but I don't know where that comes from or what that is. It's just something that we do. Yeah. And so she comes up and she's got her repertoire that she can pull out and play with. And then going to Louisville Ballet with Helen Starr, who is, from the Royal, and she just is the epitome of someone who takes on that character. The woman, did Juliet in her 60s, and did it beautifully, and moved you, and all of it. So being around those people, being raised by those crazy people, it's just part of it. Yeah. And I think often, people who aren't in the performance part of the dance world, right, like competitive dancers even, it's not quite the same thing. Because even though you may be emoting an emotion in a short piece like that, there's something about carrying a full story, I think, that develops that part of it even more.
How much of that life, and because you're talking about your family and your kiddo, and I know for me, when I became a mom, I didn't realize how much of my parenting was actually the foundation of my parenting came not only from the crazy people who raised me, because I have a very fun and let's call them an eclectic family, and also, the village that raised me, as they say. How much of your parenting does stem from that sense of play and kind of pulling on that artistic side of yourself?
Oh, I'm sure all of it. I was there, I was in a studio from the age of 9. And then once I reached probably 12 or 13, I went directly from school if possible. I took the bus. I walked sometimes. The occasional cabs, but in Lexington, Kentucky, that's a little pricey. Even my mom would say, that's your family. That's your second family. And absolutely, they were and are. It's just part of who you are. It's part of who I am. And that goes, that's from not just my young life, but then, all of my friends in Louisville, Todd included, your wonderful husband, and Brian Walker, who is near and dear to my heart, and Gil Reyes and Robert McFarland, all these great people that, Robert McFarland, who was in Rocky Horror and was Frankenfurter, he did my ceremony, my wedding. So, those are my peeps. They all are part of the mother that I am, the wife that I am, the friend that I am. Thank goodness.
Finding that balance in life and career, and being able to embrace all of those folks in your life, and kind of, I feel as an artist, and I'm sure you would agree, so much more rich as a person, just because my family includes all of those people. How is it for you now, being a full-time mom? You mentioned that you hadn't been dancing for a while, but you've done some work back and forth here in Louisville and traveling just a little bit. How is it now as a creative person to focus a little bit more on your family and less in the performing arts world? Because we have so many folks from all around the world that are parents as well, are artists, and we do have to take some time and focus on our family. How is that life for you?
Well, first and foremost, it's a gift. It's an honor, and it's part of the reason that my husband and I decided to settle in Canada, was that we had the opportunity for me to be at home with our daughter while he worked a full-time job, but still, like I said before, he works nights, so our days are with our girl, and that is an incredible gift. Second of all, it is really hard. It is, I think coming up, she's 3, so we're looking at possible preschools at 4 and kindergarten. She's ready to socialize. She's got 2 old, elderly parents. She really likes kids. I'm starting to stir a little bit more. Before now, I think that even though it's been hard, and I miss the physicality, I miss the camaraderie, I miss knowing that I have a talent and feeling useful and vital. And not that I don't, but it's different.
Sure.
I don't think there's anybody out there who would not. It's different. It's a different part of your brain. It's a different part of your heart. A different part of your gut. That it's been crazy. Now I'm starting to get a little bit antsy because, and in a good way, antsy and excited, because I know that Calgary has just a ton to offer me that I don't even know about yet. And as I was telling you, I think before the podcast started, Louisville, Actors Theater of Louisville has been really great in bringing me back to do the holiday shows. And I absolutely adore working with the Apprentice Company there, and the actors who come in, who, I know a lot of them, and the director who works on A Christmas Carol is phenomenal. So that's just, and then I get to bring my 3-year-old, and she stays with my mother. And so that's been an incredible opportunity. But that's just, that's like, it's almost too little salt on your eggs. It's a delicate balance. It's been really great and really amazing. And my girl is, I'm sure every parent feels this way. I'm sure you would agree. She's phenomenal.
Yep.
But I think she knows that I work, and I think that's really important as well, to realize that I have a talent and I have skills, and outside of just what she sees at home, and that's part of me as a whole. She knows Robert and all of my friends in Louisville, and they, come and visit and play with her and talk to her, and we talk on the phone and we Skype and all of that. So she's a part of that world too. And that's part of the gift that I can give her as a parent, who is also a performing artist or an arts administrator or one of the other hats that I wear, is that knowledge and that little bit of my life that is so amazing. And kind of the tricky part about moving here, if we were able to do this in a place where I was established, it would be different. I think part of the tricky part about our situation is that in a very short amount of time, I retired from a position in a company that I'd been with for 23 years when I left.
Wow.
In a community that I had been in for 23 years. And I had, this huge network of people that went across just this huge spectrum, from musical theater that I had worked in, operas that I had worked in, acting companies that I worked with, vocal artists that I worked with, dancers that I worked with, just this huge spectrum, to nothing, to absolutely no contacts. I could create them here, but up until now, I've really been focused on being a mom, kind of putting in roots for my husband and myself as well, going, okay, well, let's make a home. All of that stuff that my husband and I had never done much. We had been long distance. We'd been dating about 4 weeks when he moved to Canada.
Wow. Well, I think that's the balance, though. I think that's the balance that so many artists, try to fight for. And I ask everyone that's on the podcast, how do you find balance in life and career? And so many artists, give tips and tools, but I think we're constantly riding the pendulum back and forth, trying to find that balance. And I think the key, or at least part of the key, what I've learned as a parent and as someone who's had to take some time off and has gone back and forth, quite like yourself, and moved to different areas. I was born and raised in Louisville, but many times of my life I've moved outside of Louisville. I lived in New York for a number of years. And when you shift your entire being to a completely different location and you've got a completely different family circumstance, just being able to find the balance in the moment you're in is really the key. Because if you try to find long-term balance as an artist over any period of time, it's almost impossible. You really have to ride that balance almost on a day-to-day basis, I think.
Totally agree. Well, and I also think that, it's also an individual thing, to each his own.
Sure.
For me, to try and find anything long-term and go, okay, this is what I do now. Really, really difficult. There's so much that I do, that I want to do, that I want to be able to do, that up to this point in my life, I've been really, really fortunate that most opportunities have presented themselves to me. So I'm a little spoiled. I'll be the first one to say that. I'm a little spoiled. So the idea of having to go out and seek opportunities for me is daunting as well. So now that those getting ready to go school here in the next year and a half, it might just be time to kick myself in the pants and do that crazy thing called a resume that I haven't done, and I don't even know how long. Yeah, it's crazy. But I think that the whole balance thing, I think balance is fluid. I don't think that it's a static state. And I think if you try and make it, at least for me personally, if I tried to make it a static state, I would go insane.
Yeah, I know.
As a nitpicky little perfectionist that I am, it would be horribly detrimental.
Well, I think it would be limiting. I think it would limit the possibilities in each situation, in each day, in each moment. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Well, and I would constantly be unhappy, because I don't think in my choice of lifestyle, in my choice of career, in the choices I've made, it's just not possible. As a freelance, whatever I do, and an independent contract and all of that, it's not a reasonable thing to expect, I think.
Well, as we wind up the podcast here, if you could look at, and this is going to sound, I don't want it to sound very Barbara Walters-like, but if you could look at the next couple of months of your life, or the next 6 months to a year, and there were no limitations at all, what would you like to see yourself doing?
No limitations at all.
No limitations. Dream big. Go big or go home.
Go big or go home?
Yeah.
I would take my daughter and my husband, and I would travel.
Where would you go?
I would travel. Spain.
Nice.
I'd love to see the ruins in Mexico. Where else would I go? Maybe Rome again. Yeah, we were just, that's when it... my husband was, when we originally met, he was the curator of a contemporary art museum in Louisville.
Okay.
The New Museum of Contemporary Art. So we both really, really love travel. And Zoe is 3, and totally loves the whole, she was telling us today that she was going to go to South America.
Okay.
And then she was going to go to Afro-America.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, she's 3.
Yeah, I love that. I would love to see a map of Zoe's world, what Zoe's world looks like.
Totally. So, Jay and I, we talk about travel a lot. We talk about other places. We both worked around many different cultures, all of our careers and all of our lives. So, being able to share that with her would just be the poop, would be fantastic. So, as much as this, we're talking about arts and all this stuff and all this stuff, I think if I could do anything in the next 6 months and I had no limitation, I would take the man that I love and the baby that we made and I would travel.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And I think what I love about that, and I love ending on this note with you, because that just, it too, in that dream world that you're creating, the things that you want to do, it just there's so many possibilities. Everything is just open, and just leaving that open to dreaming about where you want to go, where you want to be with your family. It creates that next step for you guys. And I just want to thank you so much for being on the podcast. It has been a delight to talk to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You made it so very easy.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you very much. I'm blushing and I'm bowing in front of my recording system here. Thank you so much. Well, folks, we want to thank Delilah Smyth for being on the podcast. Again, this is Wise Words Wednesdays. If you'd like to contact Delilah, learn a little bit more about what she's doing, or find out about how you can work with her in any capacity, you can contact her actually through the Acting for Your Life website, or you can email us directly at acting4yourlife@gmail.com. That's acting4yourlife@gmail.com, and we'll put you in touch with her. Again, thanks to Delilah, and thank you to her family for allowing her to spend a little bit of time with us here on Wise Words Wednesdays. Folks, thanks so much for listening. Be sure to visit the website to find out more about some of the workshops we're offering. Be sure you check out acting4yourlife.com, or check us out on Facebook at Acting for Your Life. Thanks so much for tuning in. Now go out there and break some legs.